Hi, I'm Sajai Krishnan. I'm the CEO of ParaScale. ParaScale is a startup software company focused on cloud storage software based out of Cupertino in the Silicon Valley area.
So, in terms of cloud storage, tell us a little bit more about the specifics of your offering. What kind of customers are you working with, and problems are you solving?
Excellent. Great question, Rich. So basically what we offer is a piece of software that you can put across a set of standard Linux servers that you can purchase anywhere. So whether it's HP, Dell, Supermicro, it doesn't matter. We federate or aggregate the storage inside these Linux servers to appear like a cloud. So in other words, a service provider deploying our software on top of standard Linux servers that they purchase would be able to provide a cloud storage offering like Amazon. And if you are an enterprise IT manager and you like the cloud storage concept, you could do the same and provide internal cloud storage for your internal IT customers.
So, is most of the interest that you're getting right now from providers or from enterprises? What are and how might their interest and requirements differ?
So what we're seeing is a 50-50 split in the amount of trials. So we offer 4 terabytes of storage capacity in terms of managed capacity from a software perspective. We offer that free on our website. We see a lot of downloads in the high hundreds. 50% of that, give or take, is service providers and managed hosters of different kinds, and a lot of it is enterprise. However, over the next 6 months, what I see is a huge interest from service providers in monetizing this opportunity. With ParaScale's cloud, it was pretty much the first chance that the enterprise IT manager had to easily deploy a cloud storage solution inside. So it's still early days inside the enterprise. So I think that real deployments and revenue for ParaScale will really be in 2010, and that will still be an early market for enterprise cloud storage.
Mm-hmm. And how does your revenue model work?
So very familiar to the ways in which people have been used to buying storage to date. So it's priced by the capacity, so by terabyte. So very, if you're used to buying disk capacity, buying ParaScale software will be no different.
There seem to be a lot of different offerings in the cloud storage, online storage market right now. A lot of different kinds of players in the space. How does the competitive environment, sort of size up for ParaScale?
Actually, from a competitive perspective, we are lucky to be in a good spot, because when you think about all the cloud marketing, about 90% of that is on the compute side. On the cloud storage side, there are service offerings, which are basically homegrown kind of solutions by various service providers. But in terms of a cloud storage software solution, pretty much we are the only game in town, and we provide a lot of flexibility for both the enterprise IT manager as well as a managed hosting company. Now, it's interesting to note that when people think about cloud, at some level there's confusion about cloud computing and cloud storage, and that, if anything, is perhaps the biggest challenge for a company like ParaScale. Is just so much noise around cloud that people get confused with this. And my message to IT managers in the enterprise or inside businesses is that cloud storage is very, very easy to kind of deploy. Cloud computing, on the other hand, takes a little bit more work, because you have to put wrappers around, that you can take an existing workload, move it into a virtual environment. With a ParaScale cloud storage, you can just point your NFS system or your NFS pipe to a ParaScale cloud within your data center, and without any changes, you're good to go. So in many respects, even though there is a recession and money is tight, there is no recession for data growth. So our recommendation is that companies who have expensive storage probably recognize that 90% of that data is probably older data sitting on that expensive storage. They ought to consider using something like a ParaScale cloud solution to offload some of that storage sitting on, or data sitting on expensive storage. And that's a very decent way or very easy way to start. And from a managed services provider, that's again the pitch to make is, hey, enterprises who are struggling with making this trade-off about moving to cloud storage, clearly there is that pressure to find new places to put all that increasing data. And instead of putting it on expensive tier 1 storage, here's a service option, and it can be very easily done with something like ParaScale, especially because yes, we do S3 type or REST protocols, but in addition to that, we address these legacy protocols, which mean that you can migrate the data over without any change.
Let me ask you about the service provider customers, because you mentioned S3. Obviously, there's a lot of awareness of S3. They're storing a lot of stuff for some folks.
Yeah.
Are service providers feeling the pressure from customers who may be aware of S3 to have their own offerings, and is that one of the sweet spots for your operation?
Absolutely. I think service providers are certainly very aware both of the competitive dynamic around Amazon's significant presence in this service space, and also the opportunity around it. So I think that over the next 6 months, many of the forward-thinking service providers are rolling out cloud offerings, and cloud storage is certainly the easiest, most monetizable cloud offering to roll out. So that's what we see there, and we are hopeful that we can be an enabling partner for these service providers.
What's your take on obviously there's been a lot of conversation about cloud computing and wariness about the rate of adoption and such. What's your sense, attending the GigaOM, the Structure Conference now, about where the conversation's at and what kind of uptake and confidence folks have in looking at cloud options?
So you have to think about cloud compute and cloud storage slightly differently. Cloud compute has been around for a little bit more time, but you're also looking at more complex applications. Greenfields aside, if you're in a greenfield situations, right, these things are much easier. But most of what we're looking at and the main problems that we're trying to solve here are the existing pressures of IT. So if you're taking a legacy application and considering moving it into a compute cloud, there is work to be done, and I think that's fairly early days, and at some level there's a little bit of disappointment. With cloud storage, it's newer. It's although Amazon S3 has been offering it for a year plus, the ability to get service providers into the business and the ability for enterprises to actually deploy this is fairly new. So in terms of what we are seeing, it's still the early adopter group, and I think that we will see revenues, most of our revenues for ParaScale, from service providers in 2009. There'll be a lot of enterprise trials in 2009, but the early revenue wave will really be in 2010. Ultimately, when you kind of think about this, I think given that the pace of innovation and the pace of technology adoption has just gotten so much faster in the past 4 or 5 years, one tends to have higher expectations of cloud. But really you have to set the clock back to say 1995 and think about how much time it took to get the client-server wave through, or early 2000s the 3-tier web architecture through. So all we are seeing here is this hyper adoption. So over the next 4 or 5 years, we're going to see increasing maturation of the technology and greater penetration. So personally, being in the space, it's very gratifying to see the interest and the adoption, but one should not forget that it's still very early.
Yeah, listen, thanks for taking the time to talk to us about ParaScale.
No, not at all, Rich. It's great to have the opportunity, and thank you very much.